Hello, everyone. Welcome to our channels today. This is Shannon Gardner, and today I'm joined with Amanda from Higher Self Perspective and Jasmine from Soul Alchemy with Jasmine. So today we're going to have a little chat about the Schumann a little bit. We're going to touch on that and also talk about solar weather and whatever comes up in our chat today. Um, so, Amanda, if you want to just say a little bit about what you do, so people who haven't seen you and they could know a little bit about what you do and all that, if
Sure.
that's cool.
Um, like she said, I'm Amanda Danielson. I'm a quantum healing hypnosis practitioner. I'm probably like a self-proclaimed nerd. So I like following like data and science and like the world is so mysterious to me and I love exploring and learning. And so I do hypnosis and then usually go down rabbit holes about solar weather and we've been talking about the Schumann lately. And yeah, my website is higherselfperspective.com. And then my handle across all social media is higher self perspective.
Wonderful. And Jasmine, you can tell us a little
I
bit about
so
yourself, what you do.
okay, so I'm in New Zealand and I am a soul center healing hypnosis practitioner, but I'm also a naturopath of 25 years and I'm blending them together to find my own unique style. But a bit like Amanda, I'm not the data collector, but I definitely love learning. I like to see the connections between everything and I just love learning all the different perspectives and that's why I like your name, Higher Self Perspective, because I just love it's connecting the dots and seeing all these different ways of that we can learn and relate to the world. And so my website is walkwithnaturopath.co.nz and Soul Alchemy with Jasmine is my Insta handle.
Wonderful. And I'm Shannon, and I'm a naturopathy student and hypnosis practitioner as well. So yeah, so should we start a little bit? We'll start a little bit with the Schumann, and I reckon from there we'll go into the solar weather and all these other topics that we want to talk about.
Nice.
So, um, can any of you explain a little bit what the Schumann resonance is, just for people who haven't heard about it, a little bit of what you think it is and that sort of thing?
Okay. Jasmine, do you
Amanda?
want to go first?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm to me it's Earth's heartbeat and it's been 7.8, I think, hertz for a long time, and it seems to go up and down, and we have jumps of it, and I do follow it and relate to it, but I don't know the depth of it. I know that it's being studied and talked about all around the globe or this realm. So I know you share a little bit more about it, Amanda. So there's something you would like to add.
So basically all I really know about the Schumann is that it's a frequency, it's Earth's frequency, or frequency. Um, I learned in a session, as I was learning about the Schumann, someone let me ask a question, and I asked, does the Schumann resonance affect us, or do we affect the Schumann resonance? And I believe it was a Palladian, and they said it's both actually, that we affect each other because we are all actually one. Um, and I just thought that was fascinating, and that led me down more rabbit holes. um, I believe there are 8 different stages or maybe classes of the Schumann resonance frequency. And it starts at like the heartbeat of Earth. Did you say that was 8 point something? And then it goes
7.8 or something.
up. It's
Something
like yeah, it goes up from there, and it's all sacred geometry from what it looks like the numbers as they go up. Um, and it's kind of controversial. Like whenever I look it up or like read research on it, there seems to be this controversy in the community where people have different ideas of what it is. And even if like the equipment is testing it right. And so we'll see with the different models will see completely different data because they're using different equipment. And apparently, we still don't really know too much about it, except for I know that I can feel it. And I'm sure anyone who's watching can feel when we have spikes in it. So that's about the extent of my knowledge on the Schumann.
Yeah, and I've heard that. Yeah, same with me when I look up information about it, there's conflicting information. I see people putting Instagram posts, and sometimes I'll see, oh, it has this negative effect, and then other people will write, isn't it amazing? Don't you feel amazing with the effects from it? And so I was a little bit confused as to, well, how does it affect us? Is it affecting us negatively, positively? Does it depend on the levels, that sort of thing? And
Yeah.
I've noticed people are coming to your Telegram channel and saying, Amanda, what's going on with the Schumann
Yeah.
resonance? I noticed.
They're like, I feel like crap. What is it? And I'm like, okay, let me go check. Is it space weather? Is it the Schumann?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of the common symptoms that people experience. So this is what I think when we get those really big bursts. This is what I feel, and take what resonates. But I feel like those huge bursts help us bring like our shadows to the surface and clear room for more light. That's at least what it feels like, because you'll have all kinds of stuff come up emotionally, physically, and you feel it. I feel like if you're not doing the work, or if there's something you need to release right then and there, it like helps you. And so I almost look at, if you're feeling the symptoms and you're not feeling good, it's actually a blessing that someone is trying to help you grow spiritually, energetically. And so I think it's kind of it has a symbiotic relationship wherever this frequency comes from. I don't know. Because sometimes it seems like it could come from the sun. Sometimes it seems like it already exists here. It's kind of a mystery to me. But some of the symptoms is what I was going to say: head pressure, heart palpitations, really sleepy when it drops low, or you could get like this euphoria and like burst of energy when it's really high. Sometimes I'll have like racing thoughts or feel dizzy, but now I feel like I've kind of gotten used to those high bursts, and now it's the low ones that I have a hard time with. When the Schumann goes really low, I'm like, oh, I need a nap. So now I get really excited when it's the big bursts, because I'm like, can get stuff done, like organize my garage, get the things done on the to-do list.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Have you looked into what it was today, like what's going on today? And then we've also had there's a lot been going on this week, apparently, with the Schumann and different patterns and things like that had those. Well, people were posting about these geometric patterns that were part of this week. And what's kind of going on lately, like at the minute?
So there's like some controversy with that as well, because on the Russian model, it was showing those really cool patterns. And we were like almost hitting a frequency of 200. It was like in the 190s, I think. And it felt really energetic for me. I'm not sure how you guys felt, but then other people had a lot of like karmic stuff coming up, or were feeling like flu-like symptoms, like they were purging. But when you look at the Italian model, it was like flatline. They had a couple of really big bursts, but I almost think maybe it's because it's different areas of the world that they're measuring. And also they could be using different equipment too. Like, I don't know which data, like where they're getting their stuff from, what equipment they use. And I notice it conflicts a lot between the Italian and the Russian model. So some people are like, oh, it broke. And I'm like, well, I've heard that they are only supposed to measure up to 100. So if you're getting up into the 200s, maybe it just kind of malfunctions. So I'm not really
Yeah.
sure, but today it was a high of 58. There was a big spike, and we're kind of dropping down low now too. I don't know if you guys are kind of feeling the slump a bit.
Yeah.
And also it goes, sometimes there's blackouts, and then sometimes there's whiteouts, and then sometimes there's wings. And it's just, I think, I feel like there's so many different ways of looking at it. And, you know, like you were just saying, different areas, other frequency things that are being influenced, the person who's looking at it. There's so many different ways of you know, relating to that data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple days ago, when those crazy patterns were showing up on the Russian model, sorry, the dog's barking. When those patterns were showing up, I had a quantum healing hypnosis session that day, and
Wow.
I asked, like, what is going on with these patterns and like these like really high spikes? And they said that like the powers that be, or the dark ones, are trying to stop this next wave of awakenings that a lot of people are starting to remember. They said, especially in Canada, and they are trying to stall it. And the person's higher self, no, it was a Palladian actually. With a Palladian was speaking through them. I'm going to post a clip, but they said that nothing can stop it. They're basically they're on borrowed time at this point, and they're still doing it. They're still going to try, but there's nothing that they can do to stop this next wave. And that was all the information I got from that. But I was like, oh, why Canada? And I was thinking, why Canada?
Wow.
And,
I had in a hypnosis session a while back, well, it wasn't my session, it was a client, and they said that Canada, the people of Canada, were going to be the first country to basically have a massive sort of awakening, and that the other countries would kind of follow. And I mean, obviously, stuff that comes up in sessions, we can only take it with a grain of salt and see if it happens. So who knows? That's really interesting. I got the chills just saying that. Growing up there and knowing what the culture is like too, there as well. You're pretty close to Canada too.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar culture in Wisconsin. It's a long, hard winter. Minimum wage is very low. There's a lot of agriculture, but they're like tightening the grip with laws on farmers in Wisconsin and just killing their source of living.
Wow.
And they cut down on how many livestock you can have for due to that new that carbon bill. So Wisconsin,
they're doing that here.
Yeah, are they?
Yeah, they're doing a lot of stuff like that in New Zealand. And I mean, I feel like that about my country, that people have been lulled into this false sense that New Zealand is, you know, win the rugby and the sailing, and we're the special people. And everyone seems to be a little bit naive about the whole waking up to what's going on. But just in regards to the weather, I just mentioned earlier before we actually started the live Zoom that we've had, I mean, from November till now, which is June, and it's right through summer and autumn, we've had hardly any sun. It's been grey, and that's just so not like New Zealand. And we've had so much rain, and people, I mean, our soil, everything's wet. We've had fungal things growing, and you know the fruit bowl, which is Napier, which is part of New Zealand, or they had terrible flooding. And I feel like, I don't like to dwell on that sort of stuff, but I feel like there's definitely been some sort of influence on this area too. And like last night we had this terrible storm, and I was thinking, oh, it's the solstice, you know, and like every full moon we can't even see the moon. We haven't been able to see the moon for months and months. So I was just mentioning before about how we had this incredible thunderstorm and lightning, and I had to open the blinds because for some reason I felt compelled. I was like, I want to see it because it went off like six. They went like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was just really weird. Yeah, sequentially, and it feels really just not like a normal storm, and the winds too. And anyway, so throughout the night, I kept feeling it flash on my third eye, which I mentioned before. So I don't know, I feel a bit shattered today. So it's so interesting, all these things that are happening, and so many ways of looking at it. You know, what could that be?
Like it feels so artificial.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to mention too, when you were, it's related to, but also backtracking a bit here with when you said about the Russian model. I've been doing a bit of research into that and a bit of astrology. I'm kind of still researching about it, so trying to make up my own opinion of what I think about astrology and the moon cycles and the sun cycles and stuff. But what's coming up with the moon cycles actually is very similar to the Russian model that you said. So when you said that, I was like, wow, because I just did a little video on my YouTube channel, posted it yesterday or the day before, about what's happening with the moon cycles and where the planets are aligned at the minute, is that they said they're going to feel that you're processing a lot of emotional things at a very, like, at fast pace, more fast paced than usual. But at the same time, you're also going to feel energetic, like you're going to feel like you want to do a lot of things. You're feeling motivated to do a lot of things, but also the purging of traumas and emotional things that we need to process are processing at a really high rate. So it can feel really intense. So it's kind of, it's funny because you're going to be processing a lot of stuff at a very high, fast rate, but it's also going to make you come out the other end of processing all that a lot quicker as well. So it's going to feel, you can feel really intense and you can feel really low and stuff from that. Then, but also feeling really motivated. And that's meant to be going on until the 26th or the 27th of June, depending on where you are.
When did it start? When did it start?
I think around the 11th of June, and then to the 26th, 27th. So it'll be like the 27th here in like New Zealand, Australia time, and then it'll go to the 26th, like London, UK time or whatever. So when you said about the Russian model, it's so interesting how it lines up with the moon cycles. Yeah.
I mean, it's spot on too, because last week I spoke to other people. There was like this feeling with the collective, and it was so heavy. And so it felt like grief.
Yeah.
It felt like heartbreak, like someone just broke up with me and like my dog died. It was like, and really intense for like 2 days. I'm not kidding. I had like laid in bed and was crying, but I didn't even know why I was crying. And it was happening to other people too. But I mean, it was really fast. It was like 2 days, and then all my energy was back. But I'm like, I don't even know. It was intense. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that it lined up with something with astrology and the moon. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's related to Gemini and Mercury as well, and then where the moon's aligned at the minute as well.
And also being in Cancer, coming up to Cancer now, that's always emotional. And that's related to the moon anyway. So it's like we're being pushed in this container, not in a container, but being pushed to deal with all those traumas and all the shadow side. Because how else can we be filled with light if we don't release it all? So just
you know what though, it felt like it didn't feel personal. It felt like it was everybody's stuff. Because I couldn't identify it. And it was so much all at once that I couldn't even tell where it was coming from. And it was a lot. But it also felt really good to cry too.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
You always feel good after a good cry. I always tell my daughter, just have a good cry, let it out. We all purge in different ways. I'm a crier as well. That's
Me
how I
too.
release it. Other people release it in different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
We're all criers
absolutely.
here.
We're all empaths too, I would say. So,
Yeah. I even cry when I'm angry. If I get really angry, I'll just start
Oh yeah.
crying. It's like bursts out of me. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
wow.
That's neat. Also, let's touch upon the auroras
Mm,
because I don't know if you remember, you'll know more, Amanda, whether
mm,
it was about a month ago, how many weeks ago it was, um,
Hmm.
where the levels were and the auroras were really high at the time.
Are you
I guess
asking
I'll
about
just,
like that when it was that few days of it was like a weekend, I think, where it was really intense, like solar storms, and I think we were seeing the aurora like south of Illinois. I think it like went all the way down to Indiana.
wow,
For
yeah.
anyone who's listening in the States, yeah.
Yeah, my mom could see it from where she was in Southern Ontario there as well. And it's just so interesting that there's when the Schumann is at different levels, that the auroras are stronger, and I wonder what the
Mm.
relation is with that. There's all these theories about what the northern and the
mm,
auroras are even. Some people think that they're shining. I've heard that could be light shining up through. There's a hole up there,
mm,
some people think. I've heard tons of different theories that's coming
mm,
out from Middle
Oh.
Earth, but then
Oh.
what's but then what's the Aurora Australis then? Is there a hole down there too in Antarctica? Who knows? Like it, but yeah, I've
Hmm.
heard different theories. What do you guys think about the
or
southern
another,
lights?
I don't know much about that, but yeah, I was just going to say that there's another theory that we had a dome over or a firmament over the plane that we're in, and that's being dismantled or coming down. So that's why we're
Mm.
seeing so many more lights and
Mm.
reflection from what's really up there. So that's another perspective. It's not strictly the
Interesting.
aurora
Like
borealis, but I
is
know,
that along the lines of like the sky's not really blue, but it's actually another color, right? Is
yeah,
that the front?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I've
yeah.
heard that too.
I
Oh,
definitely know there's something going on because the sky is so different, and you just see photos that people put up from different places, and then I mean we don't even see the sky, so
I
the
haven't seen it
blueness.
in so long. I'm looking at it right now and like it's just all smoke and
Yay!
clouds. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you guys want to hear a crazy story? So,
yeah.
um, about probably a year and a half to 2 years ago, I had
yeah.
this dream where it was like we were. Have you seen that Native American legend of like the earth that we live on is actually like a tortoise's back or a turtle's back, and it's like
Oh,
floating on the sea of like a bigger earth, right? Um, so I saw like the image of the turtle, but then I was down inside of earth and I was with all these people and we were like hiking up a mountain and we get to the top of a mountain and we're tearing through what looked like really thick cellophane or plastic wrap and we're just ripping through it to help people escape. And I think it
Wow.
was
wow.
like the firmament. And I spoke to one of my really good friends who I've known for years, and she's like, Amanda, I've been having these dreams about you. She's like, we're with all these people and we're at the top of a mountain, and all I know is we're helping them escape. And I'm like, were you like
Wow.
ripping through something? She's like, yes, I've been having this dream for I think she still has it to this day. It's reoccurring. And like,
Wow.
yeah, it'll never leave me. We were like escaping. And I don't know if it's true, but if it felt really real. Maybe it's
Wow.
another dimension. I don't know. But it was crazy. Yeah. I
There's
think
so many potential realities, though, aren't there?
yeah.
There's just anything we can think of could be a reality. Well, that's how I know you said you feel like that too.
Yeah. If you can imagine it or think it,
Mm,
then it has to
mm,
be a possibility, right? If we're everything and nothing,
yeah.
and thoughts are things, then I don't know. We're all wrong. We're all right. Our dreams might be reality somewhere else.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, you froze again,
I know.
Shannon.
Yeah, I
Thanks,
know.
Elon. Starlink is Elon, right?
Yeah, exactly. What's with that? Hello. Paid good money for that Starlink.
I thought about
Yes.
that. Yeah. I've thought that when I wake up in the morning, which is a dream and which is a reality throughout my life, I've always, since I was really young, thought, because your dreams feel so real.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how could they not have a purpose? Or, it's just it's fascinating.
I kind of think of it as like Avatar, the movie Avatar, where they are in their avatar suits, they're going in one reality and a different reality or a different realm. I kind of think of it like that now. Like when I fall asleep, I'm having maybe an outer body experience similar to being in theta, I think is outer body for me. It feels outer body to me because when I am coming back to my body in session, I remember being woken up too quickly one time by a practitioner, and I they were like, "Okay, you're wide awake now," and I wasn't.
I know.
I was,
There we
and
go.
I had to say, "Oh, I'm not in my body. I'm not quite in my body yet." So I really think we have this outer body experience. And it's related to near-death experiences and all that, how your body kind of leaves. So I think my theory is that we leave our physical body in that theta state, or well, it's delta, really deeper than that, where we leave. And where do we go during that time? Are we off somewhere? People talk about doing work, and I know my boys definitely, they have funny dreams all the time when they're sleeping. They're sleepwalking, freaking out in their sleeps about they're off doing work like little warriors somewhere. And these have been occurring dreams of them for years now, my two little boys. And yeah. Excuse me,
I
sorry.
think Dolores Cannon talks about this a little bit, doesn't she?
Oh,
Where
does
she
she?
says, like, yeah, I think I heard her like a clip of a conference or something, and she said something along the lines of, um, like our soul doesn't sleep and it needs to do something while our physical body needs to rest. Because have you ever woken up and you feel like you just came back from battle,
Exactly.
or like you need a nap from sleeping all night? Yeah, what if we're like on a mission?
Exactly.
Sure.
That's what I kind of think. We're giving our physical body a rest. And because that's when our body does the most healing, as well as when we're in delta or theta as well. So it makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah.
We didn't answer your question about the aurora borealis. I went sidetracked.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
I don't even remember. I think I just wanted to mention about how it's related to the Schumann, and how interesting it is that how it gets brighter at different levels of the Schumann resonance of different peaks and whatever. So I just wanted to say that I thought that was interesting. And yeah.
I only know the aurora from like the standpoint of a solar storm, like when a CME or a wave hits us, like a solar wave of energy. And so the bigger it is, the faster it is, the deeper it comes down into our atmosphere. And there are different levels of chemicals and they react with those. So what the color is, how far down it has gotten towards like Earth. And so when you're seeing like the pink and red ones, that's when it's gotten, and they're rare because we have to really be like that storm had to have been earth facing and hit us at a certain speed and be big enough to go deep enough to get those reds and the pinks. And so that's when like that was a really big storm, but they seem more frequent lately. The solar storms seem more frequent lately too. So I don't really know like the more metaphysical side of what they could be, but I like the idea of maybe there's a hole in Middle Earth. I think I
I
know
love
where
it.
one is, but that's like a whole nother show.
Yeah, but it's also related, I think, to the auroras. Yeah, because I've heard a lot about that. And then, yeah,
Like the
exactly.
aurora with Middle Earth or the
Hmm.
aurora with the Schumann. Oh, okay.
With Middle Earth, like some people believe it's light coming out of the hole of where Middle Earth is up north, and there's so much weird information about these, different families and
Mm.
history. And if you look at the names of the islands up there, you're right. It's for a whole nother show, but
Yeah.
it was just one theory. But speaking about solar weather, tell us all you know.
Mm.
Tell us everything you kind of know about that.
Yeah.
So this kind of became an obsession and possibly even like an unhealthy obsession, but I had to figure it
That's
out.
awesome.
Um,
Yeah.
I started probably a couple of years ago. I started, for some reason, paying attention to solar flares. And then I started realizing there was a correlation between how I was feeling and when they were happening. And I'm like, no, that can't be right. But it even got to the point where I'd like turn the alerts off on my phone and I would feel it. And I'd go
Wow.
on my phone and I'm like, oh, we did just have a CME or a solar
Mm.
flare. And then I started realizing all these other people could feel it too. And then feel the solar weather, we're also very sensitive to the weather here on Earth, and that it's a type of empath where you're
Mm.
sensitive to seismic activity, to solar weather, or to space weather, and to oceanic and atmospheric weather.
Mhm.
So I just kept digging deeper and deeper. And then I heard about this scientist who found another correlation between, he called it human excitability, which I just think is high emotion. He found a correlation between human excitability and the 11-year cycle of the sun. And it's mind blowing. I mean, you
Wow.
can lay these graphs on top of each other, and I mean, it lines up with times of war. It lines up with, I think a lot of people, when they talk about it, they focus on the negative part,
Mm.
war,
Mm.
really governments, like no free will kind of a thing. Same time, um, during those solar maximums where like all that chaos happens, also like some of the most brilliant things in art and technology
Wow.
and
Mm.
creativity are also peaking. Like some of our
Wow.
biggest discoveries and creations also happen at the same time, which I think it will obviously,
Mm.
because we always need that
Mm.
push, that like
Hmm.
that dark to help our light shine. Um, I shared some graphs with Shannon because they've also linked the solar weather to our economy and markets crashing. And
Wow.
you can line that one up
Wow.
too. And I
Amazing.
mean, it's predictable. Yeah. And
Wow.
I think it starts with, well, with like the wars and stuff like that, and breakthroughs with like technology and art and music. Um, that one I think goes back to like the 1700s. And then I think it's maybe the late 1800s where they start tracking it for markets crashing.
Do you want me to
Um,
show any of the two? You just let me know
yeah,
when you're ready for me to
sure, go
show.
ahead. And
Um,
I'll really quickly describe what they are. Um, which one are we going to do first
okay,
here?
well, I'm trying to see where I can, so there's that one, and there was another one here that I'll just get up. I
Ooh,
had it here ready to
it
go.
gets it gets a
Um,
little blurry, but that's okay. So that one, we'll look at that one first. That's the one with the solar cycles and human excitability. Um, Shannon, I'll give you a link if you wanted to share it, if people wanted to read the research and kind of, form an opinion of their own.
sure,
Um,
that would be
but
great.
okay, so this is like an excerpt from, wait, no, let me go somewhere else. Sorry, ladies. Okay, so the graph we're looking at right now is solar activity with versus like human activity levels or human excitability, created from data provided in the translation of Chajewski's, who wrote this paper and who discovered this correlation, right? It's from his paper called Physical Factors of the Historical Processes, maybe. That was published in 1971. But I think he started this research in the 1920s, maybe even earlier. So in the graph, you'll see the number of important historical events is plotted in the blue on top, and then the red are the solar cycles. Where did that go? I mean, look how much it lines up. So
we could post these on maybe our community tab for you too.
That'd be awesome.
Just so people can see it a little bit bigger, more clear, and on your Telegram channel or whatever social medias you guys want to.
Let's do it. So these are the histories of 72 countries. That's where he gathered the data. Okay. So all over were compiled and plotted against sunspot activity from 1750 to 1922. And Chajewski found that 80% of the most significant human events occurred during the 5 year of maximum solar activity. He also found that 80% of the most significant human events occurred during the 5 year maximum as well. So the solar maximum can increase human warfare activity, but also that polar opposite of human creativity as well. So like that complete polarization of the dark and light.
Wow, it's fascinating. I find it just fascinating.
Know.
Yeah.
It's wild, huh?
So where are we in relation to that now? The solar maximum.
I have another graph that we can.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't have it right now, but I'll share it either in the Telegram or we can put it in our communities. But we're heading into a maximum. So we just dropped a minimum, which when I show you the market graphs, like our economy graphs, you'll see that it dipped right around the time when we had that, I think Trump was still in presidency. We had that stock market mini crash. But the thing is, they found that can sometimes be a 2-year overlap. Right. And what's interesting is I heard a quote from Edgar Cayce where he said something very similar to what the Palladians were telling us about the Schumann and how we affect it and it affects us. Edgar Cayce said that we affect the sun and the sun affects us. So it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Oh yeah.
So are we affecting these solar cycles or are they affecting us? Or is it kind of just been like a symbiotic relationship for like the history of humanity? I'm not really sure.
Yeah. And I wonder also, because you're saying that we can affect it as well, whether some of these maybe darker people that are kind of controlling things in the world right now are able to have an effect on it as well. You know, whether they have some sort of technology or something that's able to affect it, everything going on, both the Schumann and the solar activity that's going on as well, to try and benefit their plan or what have you, you know? So
like maybe like really use that chaotic side, that dark side of that polarity.
Yeah. Or maybe, if they're able to have any sort of technology that has to do with frequencies and that affects it as well. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
Like use like the same frequency as the sun. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I just mean like what's that big thing that they have
that soon.
Yeah, CERN or something else to be able to affect, influence the the solar weather and the Schumann and stuff like that to change the timelines and things artificially to benefit their plans or benefit to try and like we were saying try and stop humanity from having these mass awakenings and things like that too. So yeah.
Slow down the ascension process.
I'm sure someone's got the technology out there.
Oh, of course. And the frustrating thing is for humanity, is we really don't know what we don't know. We really don't know. Like, it feels to me like we're a little bit in the position of, well, we're not sure what's true and what's not true. We can only go by our inner guidance. But it would be amazing. It will be amazing when we actually get the full picture.
Absolutely. I mean, all we can go by is all these different synchronicities and things, and how other people are feeling. And that's how I became in tuned with the collective sort of energies in the first place. I never.
So speaking of the, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
You froze for a second, so I was going to start talking.
Okay, I'm going to have lots of editing with this one. I was just saying that's how I became kind of in tune with the collective, and I was energies. But I was saying to Kaz and Ian yesterday about how everything is just theory, really, except for the now, like the now moment and being in the present. And you're right, there's all these things we don't know about. We can just believe, but there's all these synchronicities, and that's how I kind of became in tune with the collective was just hearing how other people are feeling at the time too, and talking to others, and how we're all feeling kind of low at the same time, and people are feeling this at the same time and that at the same time. Yeah,
which is actually perfect, really, because it means it's making us deep dive into experiencing all our other gifts and
absolutely
becoming so much more expansive than we have been, because it's the only way out, really. It's just like
the only way to truth is really just yourself. And
so then we will move more to telepathy and expanding those, the collective, just sensing and
speaking of that, like you're like learning those different senses. I think that's my favorite thing with clients is when they get upgrades in sessions after they've been cleared, and then their team comes in and will upgrade different chakras, and I follow up with them and they're like, I saw a big burst of light, or I can hear stuff now that isn't there. And that's such like an exciting part.
It is.
When all your different senses start coming online and you're learning how to use them, and you're like, please turn this down, it's too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you see this other graph up here now?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. So this is, it has the past of solar cycles and all the different crashes of the financial markets. And they figured out just through like the past and looking back at data that sometimes it can take a couple of years. So there's kind of a 2-year lag. And right now we're in the 2-year lag of what should be a crash, which I think would be a really great thing, because usually when the market crashes, then we have like this rebuild of government and society and values, and we start living as a community again, and we rely upon each other, and we become self-sufficient. So maybe some people might see that as negative, but that kind of makes me excited.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that it starts at 1902 as well. If you guys are familiar with Jason Brashear's work, whether people believe what he says or not, he has a theory about these phoenix events that happen and resets that happen in his all his works and everything. like with the last Phoenix phenomenon, that happened was right before 1902. And
Oh,
yeah, so it's interesting that they started
like that was
these
the
targets.
last reset, right?
The
Like
last
when everything,
yeah, go and check his work out about the Phoenix phenomenon. I mean, make your own decision of what you think about what he says, but he has so much information. He basically got had a whole bunch of really old books and really, really old books that he had read while he was in prison for years.
Mhm.
And there was just all this information that we just, in these old books that he's been able to, and he's written his own book, and he's just a wealth of information from his years of being in prison and reading all these different books. But he has basically figured out the different timelines and these things that huge events that happen
And he
throughout
thinks something
history.
about like the 2030 something, right? That
I
there's
think,
going to be another reset. Because
yeah,
if you look up there, there's 2034 and these are all approximate. Anything with the future.
yeah, and 2040 is I think he said that 2040 is the next like really big Phoenix phenomena. The Phoenix event 2040 there too.
Of leeway. It's like archaic or arches something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
archaics. Yeah, he was saying, if you didn't hear me there, so sorry about the
Sorry.
connection. This is the worst connection I've had, I think, with any chat so far. I think
we heard you then.
Frequency.
honestly,
Yeah.
the only time this ever happens is when like there's really important information that I don't think they want people to talk about, really.
We'll take it as a compliment. Thank
Exactly. Yeah, I was just saying 2040 reckons is the next big one. Like I think there's a smaller one before that could be around the time you were just saying, 2030 mark or something, but I'm pretty sure I heard him say 2040 was going to be when the next like really big one is.
Well, it kind of
event.
shows that it looks like there's two back to back. If you look, 2029 and 2040 is the next line.
Yeah.
And they both they're 11 years apart.
That's so interesting.
That's the solar cycle. Yeah.
But what do you feel about, timelines and integrating timelines and shifting timelines and the influence of us collectively waking up and, all the different perspectives? Do you feel that this still reflects that, if you know what I mean? I mean, if we shift timelines, will it still be reflected, but just be a different perspective, perhaps? I don't know.
Goodness. I don't know.
I don't know either. That's a really big question.
Makes my brain hurt. Maybe all the graphs will just update with us when we jump different timelines. I don't know.
They look totally different. Oh, well.
Yeah. Oh, God, man, that timeline jumping stuff like threw me into quite a dark space for a little while. Yeah. It freaked me out. It kind of scared me. It was like during my dark night of the soul, and I had like heard about like what are they called again? Like when they think you jumped a timeline and there's stuff that you remember, but it's different now. What is that? Mandela Effect.
Yeah.
And I started seeing all of them, and I stayed up till 5 a.m. and I couldn't stop. And I was like, what is this? Is like anything real anymore?
I know.
It hit me pretty hard. Yeah. The timeline stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I follow. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I follow someone who I did mention you. I'll tell you his name. It's Jason Estes, and he's got a YouTube channel called MTVO TV, and his work is more about doing the inner work. It's all about doing the inner work, and he always refers to it as it's a technology that you learn. It's just a word, that the technology. Anyway, he talks about that we integrated timelines, I think in 2019, and we were going along one path, and then we integrated 3 other timelines, including a chaos one, and they all converged, and we sort of got set back 3 or 4 years, and now we're back to the point where we were there because we've integrated. So I think it's like some people were going on one path, some on another, and some on another, or maybe different timelines of their reality. But humanity as a collective chose to merge together. I really like his information, but what I would like to share, because it ties in with what we were talking about earlier, is that he talks about data points, which is information, and he says that before 1987, we had 3 data points an hour of information for us to process.
Okay.
And so anyone was born back before then, it's really challenging now because we've gone up. So in the last 2 years, we've gone up. We're now at 3,400,000 data points. And he always correlates it to these energetic shifts. And so it's really fascinating. So more recently, we've gone up to this over 3 million, and it wasn't expected that humanity or that we would get there this fast because it's choices people have made. Anyway, so collectively we've chosen to take that on. But the interesting thing for me is that we're now at 3,400,000, and once you hit 3 million, I think that was the amount, or a little bit over, you can integrate your past lives, your present moment, and your future lives. And so now we're in a place where we can integrate all of that at once. And that's why there's all this energy around us that's a different perspective of looking at it. But for me, it's like I can sense this palpable energy around me. And so he says that some people choose to process it, some people choose not to deal with it. But it's like what we're talking about, dealing with your trauma and all those things. But one interesting thing he said a month or so ago, he said we're moving into the master line. Oh, and that people from other planets, actually, they start at 5 million data points. So if you're from originally another planet, you actually find it easier to have these higher frequencies because it's more comfortable, I guess. But he said this thing, which I think is really cool, that we're actually moving to a point where we can call on a past life or a future life or whatever, and then download it and integrate it. And it reminds me of the Matrix, in the Matrix where he puts the thing on and he goes into and learns some sort of
like Kung Fu.
Those sort of things. And actually there was another program like that called Sense8. Did you ever see that? It was these 8 people that were, I loved it. They were all born at exactly the same moment, but in different places around the world. And in the end, they could actually go into the other person's life and direct their body and all be in one thing. And I just find that fascinating that we can access other parts of ourselves like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that is why people have been really describing, I would say probably over the past year, that time is getting really weird for them?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think it's maybe because they're integrating that past, present, and future of information and memories? And
yeah, that makes sense. And also, so many people who I talk to lately, including myself, I've been really more in the present. So many people I talk to are talking about how they're just living in the moment, in the now, and that too. So it kind of makes sense with what both of you said there.
Yeah, and I'll just say one more thing. He did say something, but I can't remember exactly, about time isn't going to be the same anymore because we don't have that structure that we had over the year. And I think there was something to do with words. Anyway, something to think about in the future if we notice that how time changes.
So interesting.
It is.
Yeah, it almost feels uncomfortable now to not be in the moment. It doesn't feel good to plan too much for the future or worry too much about the past. It's like, in order to feel good, you kind of have to stay here and whatever will happen will happen.
Exactly. And also And also it makes sense with so people get stuck in the past. Like I know a lot of the flower essences we use have to do with people being stuck in the past and not being able to live in the moment and in the present or the future. People worry about the future and or they have, traumas that are from the past can really affect people from living in the now, in the present. And so with our line of work with hypnosis and dealing with these traumas, and I feel like there's so many people in the collective, and it's so wonderful how so many of us have just been working on our traumas. And I think that has a lot to do with also coming to that point where we can now live in the present by uncovering those onion layers of dealing with these past traumas, both in past lives and this current life. And by dealing with those and processing those, it allows you to live more in the present because you've processed your past traumas and things, and you become at a place where you're at peace with what has happened to you.
You're
Or
like
you
not
can live
tied
with
to
it.
it anymore. It's not like
Yeah,
holding on to you. Yeah.
yeah, like cutting those energetic cords to people or past things as well. And so, maybe that's also related to where we are as a collective and where we are here today with humanity, with all the processing of that. And obviously, there's still a lot of work to do, but the more work we do at processing our past traumas and dealing with these issues that we have bottled up inside or that we haven't dealt with will help us to live more in the now and in the present as well. So it's all related, isn't it? Yeah.
Can I mention one more thing? I know we're going to wrap up really soon.
Anything you want.
Okay. Since you both do SCHH and you just mentioned how those traumas can kind of hold us in the past, have you been noticing in sessions with entities replaying, like messing with people's minds and replaying their traumas over and over again, like they are causing the PTSD?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, that's interesting. Has that
And
been
it's
coming
like
up for you?
a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's like stopping their heart chakra expansion, or it's like blocking their crown. And
Wow.
they just keep sending, there's like certain groups that keep sending certain people these entities that are there. I'm like, what do you do? What's your mission? What's your job? And they're like, I'm replaying her traumas for her over and over again. And so
Wow.
it sounds like it's this really dark, nefarious thing. And maybe it is, but maybe that's also the role that they're playing. So they force them to truly let it go. And maybe it's a little bit of both. I'm not sure, but just curious if
Yeah.
y'all were seeing that at all.
Yeah, I've had a little break from hypnosis sections just while we've moved and stuff, and I'm just getting back into them now. I've just had a break for a few months, but it's so interesting how you do your sessions and stuff like that. There's always these themes, that come in at different times. Like when we were talking about the Mandela effect, I had a client who we asked about the Mandela effect, and they basically said that there are some, groups of people on this planet who do have the technology to be able to alter the timeline, but it's artificial. Basically, what came out was that the creator has a natural timeline, right? And but there's these groups of people with with AI and this technology that they're able to alter the timeline to suit them and their plans and their nefarious plans or whatever they have going on, right? But ultimately, that would all self-destruct because it is artificial. It's not the creator's natural timeline, what's supposed to happen. And so, um, you know, people feeling all these different shifts in times and these things, and it will affect us and our energy and frequency and everything that's going on as well by them doing that. But ultimately, they said it will all self-destruct because it's an artificial timeline that they're basically messing with the creator, trying to play God in a way that or play creator in a
That's
way to
encouraging.
yeah, so it was good to hear that definitely.
Sneaky, sneaky.
So is there anything else, like any topics or anything else that we want to talk to today? This chat's been awesome and so
Yes,
interesting.
it's been great.
Yeah. Else you
I
guys want to
don't
touch
know.
upon?
I have no idea. We kind of covered
Maybe.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I guess the only last thing I wanted to mention was we hear a lot in hypnosis sessions about these big this one big event or this big solar flash or whatever. It'll be interesting to see what actually happens there or whatever and what that's related to. But yeah.
When I was regressed, I saw the future of what people call the grand solar flash, and it was I take everything with a grain of salt though, because who knows what timeline I was on, or
Exactly.
could have been, yeah. But it was like this wave of energy, and it knocked most people, like everyone was just laying on the ground, and there was like rubble as if maybe there were earthquakes. It wasn't like war rubble, and there were some people still standing, and those people that were standing, they could handle the frequency of that wave. And it was like everyone was started doing Reiki on the people laying on the ground, and they would hold their hands over their chakras and restart it. It was like restarting an engine. And then everybody like slowly started getting up again, and everyone was like glowing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's so
cool. Dang it, Shannon.
I'll just wait for it because otherwise we'll start talking in.
there.
Right, you're back.
Sorry, guys.
No.
I was just saying that my very first QHHT session, at the very end of this was so many years ago, and at the very end of it, I started seeing in the future as well. And in QHHT, Dolores Cannon says if anyone starts to see in the future of this lifetime, to just take them right out of, right out. Yeah, because I mean, if it's a future life, it could be different. But if it's the future of this life, because people can see their death, they might see that they died in 2 years or whatever, and that could really affect their life after their QHHT session. So the rule of thumb with QHHT is that if they start going in the future of this present life, to just pull them out. So I started seeing into the future of this life. I was in my front garden of the previous house I lived in, which is, proof that we can change the future and stuff. But same, I was just in my garden doing some work in the garden, and all of a sudden there was like this, it felt like, an atomic bomb, but it wasn't an atomic bomb at all. It was something completely different. And I had to lay down in my garden, and I felt like I was suffocating. I couldn't breathe. My whole body just went so hot and so really, really hot. And I knew something was happening in the sky, like a flash or something like that. And it wasn't an atomic bomb, but it was something that had, and I was just laying down and I couldn't breathe. And so I must have been one of those people that they had to do Reiki on to bring back or whatever. You were mentioning.
Did they pull you out of it? Did you get to see the rest, or was that
well,
kind
she
of where
woke me up. I didn't get to see because she felt as though I had gone into the future of this life, and then she just like got me out of there really quickly, which yeah. So, but anyway, that was my experience.
I haven't had a session where I've gone to the end of this or to that in that way, but I did have my first session with Laura, which was on the course. I was the guinea pig or whatever you call it, which was my first ever session, and I was in a spacesuit, and I was collecting flora and fauna from a blue planet for a future timeline of humanity of the Earth. So So that was quite an interesting first experience of hypnotherapy, this modality. But in terms of with clients, I've had a few people looking down at what's going on at the earth in the future. I actually don't remember the details, unfortunately, because it was more about the process for them to actually see that they had another role at this time than just their 3D person. And whenever I've asked my higher self in a session, which was probably not for a year or so, it was always very philosophical, because that's the information that comes through from me, which unfortunately is like, well, it could be this and it could be that, and it's however it presents at the time. So
Yeah.
so nothing exciting from that. I think I'm not supposed to focus on it.
Yeah.
Maybe I would get too obsessed with it or something.
Maybe.
I actually was told, like toward the end of my swap sessions, I think I had gone over, I was like at 30, and my higher self was like, no more past lives, worry about now. And I was like, yes, ma'am, okay.
Oh, wow. That's funny.
All that matters
Yeah.
is now. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've covered most things, hopefully.
Yes.
What do you guys feel?
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, great chat.
It was fun. Yeah. I think we
Was there
probably could have
anything-
talked forever if it weren't
Thank
so
you.
late at night.
Absolutely.
That was
And
fun.
everyone
Yeah, so late
go,
for you.
yeah, and everyone go and check out Amanda's Telegram group that she has, her Instagram page, her
Yeah.
YouTube channel. She has so much valuable information about this stuff. And same with Jasmine. We'll put the go and check her stuff out as well. Instagram, YouTube, their websites, and we'll post them all. I'll post them all in the description or whatever.
Oh, cool.
And
I just
yeah.
started going, like, I
Thank
was
you.
terrified
And you.
to do TikTok, and I was terrified, and I'm like, I'm going to face my fear. So I committed to 30 days of posting every day on TikTok. It's kind of hard, but so I have a TikTok now too.
Oh, awesome. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. So we'll post the links to all the social medias and all that down in the
Yes.
description.
And
yeah,
there's
it's been
some papers
wonderful.
and studies about space weather, all
Oh,
the stuff we
yeah.
talked about. I'll share all the links with you. There's some really cool books on it
Yay.
about
Oh, yeah.
cycles. Everything's about cycles. And
Oh yeah, we
very
forgot to
interesting.
talk. We forgot to mention about the studies. Like oh, you did mention about them. The you know,
Yeah.
those studies that you found. So maybe
That's okay.
you could
We'll
post
put
those.
it. Yeah. We'll put it in the community or something.
Yeah, because those that would be really
Awesome.
interesting for people to know about too.
They're really long. So we would, they'll have to go and kind of research them on their own.
Yeah, so basically Amanda's found these
Awesome.
studies about the health effects of, is it the solar weather or the Schumann activity? You can explain briefly what we're
There
talking
are
about.
health effects of the Schumann, health effects of space weather and like solar flares. There are scientific studies on cycles and nature, cycles and biological or like living creatures. All sorts of interesting stuff, but we would have been talking for like 12 hours. So
Yeah.
but I'll get you the links.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and you can go to Amanda's social medias too to learn more about those too. That stuff. Yeah. Sounds
right,
good. Well, it's been a
ladies.
pleasure speaking with you guys, and it's been a wonderful chat. And I hope you guys, thank you for staying up late with us, Amanda, to chat with us. And
It's only 9:10.
Yeah.
This is
good.
that's
Oh, good.
nothing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we're good. Wonderful.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. And it was nice
Awesome.
officially meeting both of you. I don't think Shannon, you and I have like done a face-to-face either. So
No, we haven't yet.
great
This
meeting
is our
both of you.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Lovely to meet you too.
Yeah.
Y'all have a
Okay. Thank
great
you.
day.
Sorry.
Sounds good. Thanks, ladies.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.